melatonin helps dream recall, which is why I mostly use it, because it's because it puts you into that deep stage sleep. You can't get dream recall if you're not getting enough sleep. You're too tired to recall. It takes concentration to remember and to bring something back. So there's some connection there to the visualizing, the translation of something into a visual form. Dream recall does involve some kind of translation process, just like recording a drug experience. Some kind of translation has to go on from something that's inchoate, to an unformed and unshaped into some kind of form where you can actually verbalize it or describe it in some kind of a way. So then ayahuasca, as has DMT, but also has other tryptamine-related portions of it. And then there are other plants that were known in South America and that also have these other tryptamine substances in them, apena and yopo snuff. Mostly they were used as snuff. There's a bean plant, Piptadenia peregrina, where the little beans are, and they're rolled up into like a paste. And there's a Virola snuff where the inner bark is scraped off. This has all been written up by anthropologists, including Schultes and others, and then they take it as a snuff. They inject it into each other's nostrils through these long tubes. And there have been films that have shown that, like the Emerald Forest shows a film where and I've seen anthropological documentaries where they're blasting this snuff paste into each other's nostrils, which is kind of horrendous because they use tremendous force you have to use tremendous force to do so, and they have to do it like 20 or 30 times to get enough of them. And the guys are staggering around. Yeah. Well, but then they do their shamanizing. Yeah. They only have like an hour or less to do it, and it's just a sort of testimony to the length that people will go and the importance that they attribute to that kind of experience. Why? Because it is something it's a healing experience, and it's a spiritual experience. It's an integrated experience that connects them to the spiritual and their healing and the tribal and the community and the family and their environment. And they also use it apparently they use it to understand their environment better, for warfare, to understand. Well, there's to see clairvoyantly there's a bunch of enemies coming who are going to attack us, or there's a herd of wild pigs, we can go and hunt for them, and it might be 2 days march away. And so I haven't tried that method, but I've tried DMT relatives as a snuff, which is a big advantage, where the technology, being able to synthesize them, obviously, and it takes much less. And the snuffing, I think, is a very important. As you know, the tryptamines can't be taken orally because they get degraded, except for psilocybin, interestingly enough, so which has its own protective mechanism built in somehow. So it's either injecting or smoking and snuffing. And I myself don't think the smoking is that beneficial. And for one thing, it's very short. With DMT, it's like 5 minutes. You smoke DMT, it's like, and that's not really enough to. Or with some of these others, maybe at most like 15 minutes. Something can be, it's barely enough just to have the experience of letting go and coming back. It can be extremely scary, because if you're not exactly centered when you try to let go and you're off center, you get stuck in the doorway, and then you might have fear, and that can happen. But then it's at least it's over after a short while. But when it's taken as a snuff, it takes longer to come on. It's not so sudden, and then it lasts much longer. It lasts like about an hour, so you can have time to explore it. And from the evidence, the anthropological evidence in these tribes, there's been this culture that's been discovered in the Atacama Desert, the driest place on the planet, where sometimes it hasn't rained for 300 years. So they're like perfectly mummified bodies in the dry sand, buried in the dry sand, who still have the only thing that they are carrying with them, they have these beautifully carved wooden snuff trays with the deity figures carved on them. And this anthropologist, art historian I know that has studied these and reproduced them, and they'll have with the snuff tray still some of the seeds of this one plant that contains 5-MeO-DMT that they evidently, that was the only thing they carried with them into the afterlife. You see, this kind of indication of how important it is. And I think in the more general sense, what this confirms is that in that culture is dated back to like 2000 BC. It's very ancient. So most ancient documented use of psychedelics.